Hi, this is Ashanti Charles, and I'll be talking with Brooke Temple from Waverly Belmont Elementary School. And this is a podcast for literacy development, 6400 with Justine Bruyere. Hi, Brooke. Could you just tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of what your role is at this school?
Yes. So again, my name is Brooke Temple. My official title is Literacy Teacher Development Specialist at Waverly Belmont Elementary. My background is I taught in the classroom for about 7 or 8 years. I predominantly have taught second, third, and fourth grade, upper grade levels. I spent a year as an ELL override teacher, and then the last 4 years have worked here as a literacy coach.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'll just be kind of getting your thoughts and opinions on a few of the readings that we've been doing the past week. And these readings have kind of focused on early literacy and things we can do for beginning readers to kind of help them through. So I first want to talk about the article from Connie Bridges that she calls Predictable Materials for Beginning Readers. And she states that there are many advantages to patterned language for young readers. And specifically, she states to help beginning readers practice reading, even as they are learning to read, reading must be made as easy as possible for them. So I just want to know, in your experience, does pattern language and familiarity with text help young readers to develop? And are there other ways that we can use pattern language in the classroom besides with text?
Yes. So I would say patterned or predictable texts, they are fantastic. So they allow children to participate in the reading experience immediately. So really, no matter their background, whether if they are readers or not, if they have previous experience reading, if they have letter knowledge or word knowledge, it really doesn't matter because every single student can participate in shared reading when it's a pattern or predictable text. And so really, it's really the foundation for building literacy. It can teach those basic concepts of print, such as word-to-word matching. It can teach simple sight word knowledge, reading fluency. It really gives students opportunities to enjoy text and reading materials that they might not otherwise have access to because with their own reading ability, they might not be able to read a text like this. However, enjoying in that shared reading experience with the teacher, they can read text that they might not otherwise be able to. It also allows the teacher to be able to support all of her students, or all of his or her students, just at one time. And then most importantly, it allows the teacher to model those proficient reader skills, so including reading fluency, reading with expression. And so you'll see a lot of times in classrooms when teachers are engaging in predictable or pattern text, you'll see that students are mimicking that fluency and that expression in reading that they might not otherwise do, unless they're under that guidance of a teacher. And so kind of to answer your question about what other ways can teachers incorporate pattern language in the classroom, just besides text, I would say that they can incorporate that a lot just with phonemic awareness activities, and so letting students play with sounds and play with words. So fun activities such as rhyming and letter sound substitutions, those are great ways that you can incorporate even at the beginning of your phonics lesson. It's just like a great activity for students to kind of play with the words orally and not necessarily even in a text.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I asked that question because the kindergarten classroom I'm in right now, they have a rhyme or a poem that the students memorize every week, and they have really specific pattern language, and I can just see that it's building their confidence as readers, even though, they're memorizing the poem or the nursery rhyme. It's still, like you said, it helps them with fluency and expression, so I thought that was awesome to be incorporating that pattern language orally as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next article is an article by Fountas and Pinnell, and it's from a book called Literacy Beginnings, and so we specifically looked at chapter 10, which they call Learning to Read, 3 critical areas of early learning. And they state that great wordless picture books capture children's imagination and help them to generate language. So I just wanted to know what's your experience with wordless picture books, and maybe like the pros and cons, and how might they be used specifically for EL students? I know the school doesn't have a huge population, but yeah, if you have any experience with that.
Yeah, so my belief is that wordless picture books, they really take the pressure off of your beginning readers. So those readers who are still learning letters and how to decode, it allows them to really get comfortable with text and the idea of reading, and hopefully even, begin to instill that love of reading early on. So wordless pictures, they really encourage students to use context clues. And so we know that that is a skill that you're going to use, all the time in literacy. And so since many wordless picture books are filled with lots of detailed illustrations, students are having to rely on those illustrations to get context clues. And so again, I think that this strategy is just something that they're gaining really early on as early readers. That's going to make a big impact on them later on with readers. I also would say these are excellent materials to use when you're teaching beginning writing. And so we know a lot of times, especially when you think about our young kindergarten students, they might not know how to form and write words and things yet. However, using a wordless picture book kind of as a mentor text to show them, hey, our pictures do tell a story. And so letting them, as they're beginning to learn how to write, they can kind of sketch and get out their ideas in their illustrations first, and then start pairing it with their writing and with the words. I would say, I guess in regards to cons, I would just say anytime we're teaching literacy, we want to make sure that we're showing our students a variety of texts. So I would say that, anytime if you're using wordless picture books, we of course also want to pair books that also have text so that students are seeing a variety and seeing that, not only do we use illustrations, but we use words to tell stories. The only other con that I would say is we know that when students have the wordless picture books, their imagination can kind of go all over the place. And so we want their imagination to go all over the place with wordless books because, you do get to make up the story. However, we do want to have them hone in and pay close attention to the illustrations so that their invented story that they're coming up with really falls in context with the illustrations. And so just to be mindful of that. And then in regards to ELL students, I would say, even though that's not a large population at our school, I would just say that using wordless books, it's really evening the playing field for all students and giving them all an opportunity to make meaning of a text. And so they're able to approach complex texts, all on the same level. And so I think that it's a great way to ensure that every student has an entry point.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So kind of in doing my reading and talking to you, I think one point of research that I might want to look at is how we can use children's own illustrations to help them practice language and reading, and especially making illustrations valuable to older students, because I notice as we go up in grades, illustrations aren't seen as valuable as actual written text. So I would love to do some research on how we could incorporate that into the classroom more.
Yes. So one of the, a quote or a book that I often reference is the book In Pictures and in Words by Katie Wood Ray. And so a quote that she has that I often refer to is, if teachers show children how an illustrator's decisions about pictures are a lot like a writer's decisions about words, they form a bridge of understanding that nurtures children as writers. And so I think that quote is really powerful because it suggests that, I know a lot of times illustrations can be an afterthought. Sometimes in classrooms, after they've done a long writing, we might say, okay, now draw a picture, and it almost seems as busy work. But we really want to teach our students that illustrators really go through a lot, and they make a lot of decisions about how they craft their pictures and what details to include and how is this going to support the story. And so I think that concept is something that, we can start with our early readers, especially as they're, learning to write, but it's something that we want to continue to stress to our students even as they get older, that those illustrations are an important part of the story, and they can help tell the story in their own writing. That might even be a great way to start their own story. I know in a lot of writers' workshop models, a lot of ways that they encourage students to begin writing is to sketch out their idea first. So get all your details out, do your drawing, do all of that, and then, think about all the details you need and how you want your story to match those details. So again, I agree. I think illustrations, they tell so much of the story, and we just want to keep encouraging students to, have that love of illustrations, even the older students as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for doing this with me. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.